Hi, it's Rob Hetherington for episode 3 of the Future Experience project, where we look at the coolest things that humans have made around the world, both in the digital and physical world. We look to the past to see what was great and to the future to see what's next. And today I've got Mike Jobling, who is a co-owner of 14 skateboard company, 14, and also Gravity Corner.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not. It's 40 Co, 14 and Gravity Corner.
Yeah, 40 Skateboard Co, 14 skateboards, and Gravity Corner Skateboard Store.
Perfect. You say it 3 times. So now we really get it clear.
Then it's in.
Mike, you are all things skate with what I've been learning over the last few weeks. And we've been having conversations about the things that we're building with Jabal across the GCC. But this is about really getting into depth now of the skateboard world and the skate. And it's got to start with your story, which is a few decades old.
Oh, yeah. I guess it is a few decades old. I mean, I'm horrendous to say, but I'm coming up 49. I'll be 49 next month. 49 in a few weeks, actually. And yeah, I've been skating since I was 11 years old. I started skateboarding in Sunderland in the UK. Found a passion for it, really enjoyed it. We had a little indoor skate park in Washington, Weir, called the Oval. And it's quite funny how this little small skate park, indoor youth center skate park, that burned down 3 times, was the subject of arson 3 times, developed people with lifelong passions for their chosen sport. I'm sure I'll get condemned for calling it a sport, but unfortunately, the way the world is going, skateboarding is becoming a sport. It's becoming now with it in the Olympics, it is a sport.
So more commercial, you mean?
It's definitely become more commercial because it can't remain underground forever. It is a commercial business. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So yeah, it is a sport now.
But going back to the roots, so it's indoors, Sunderland, makes sense.
Yep.
I was wondering how the rain and skate happens when you're 11 years old. But it was community-based. Was it all just skate, or were there other things?
It was skateboard and BMX. A few roller skates, but not rollerblades. So rollerblades, this is before the time of rollerblades. So roller skates or quad skates is what we call them. That was more of, you've seen quad skates, you've seen BMX, and you've seen skateboards, but the majority was skateboards. And, a lot of the people that I met back then are still skateboarding now, and still influential and part of it. And actually my business partner in Gravity Corner, Andy, skateboarded there as well. And years and years later, we meet in Dubai.
So was that random? So you
very randomly, yeah, through a shared passion for skateboarding, we met at a skate park.
So wait a second. So many of the people you met back in Sunderland when you were 11, when you started there, all skateboard now, which means almost have all got to a really good level. I know you did. So is there some fame here in a bunch of kids that are still skating decades later?
I guess they use find a passion for it. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter how good you are at skateboarding. It's inclusive, right? So I was never the best skateboarder. I never will be the best skateboarder. I had a very small piece of talent, but I just enjoyed it, and I think that's what gets lost now is a lot of these kids coming into it now are focusing on, I want to be a pro skateboarder. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to go in the Olympics. And you're losing the kind of passion side for it, right? I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I'm doing this because I enjoy the challenge. And it teaches you a lot of life lessons. There's, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result. And skateboarders practice tricks over and over again and fall and hurt themselves. And, you're bruised, you're cut, your shins are damaged. But we keep getting back up. We keep wanting that trick. We keep making minor adjustments, and the resilience pays off. Finally,
it's fascinating. I'll bring up again about the community side. My instinct would have been when you mentioned 11, it would have been probably learning a craft in a car park.
Yep.
Somewhere like this, somewhere on the streets where perhaps for certain other people in the public that would be annoying. I know certainly here with a lot of all the skate projects. A, they're really popular and people are wanting them, but B, they're seen as a real core part of community. So I was out last weekend on Yas Island at West Yas, and there's a really big skate park there, covered, it's lit. So it was really confusing for me because it was like, this looks really strange. And you recently come over from the UK, and A, it was because it was nighttime and flooded it, and B, like you spoke about, and we'll come on later, there was no graffiti whatsoever. But there was a lot of different ages there. This was about 9 at night.
Yeah.
There were scooters, there was skate, and there were rollerblades.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought of it that way in what you've just described, but there was a community there. But I also know with the owner of Jabal, he always talks passionately about how skate sits at the heart of a community in all the projects they've built. So even back in the 80s.
Yeah, 87.
Yeah. Which was just after 1985. So Back to the Future, but we'll come back to 100 years later. It'll be brief, but we've got to do it. You were finding that. So it was like, how come it was a skate park?
It was a really strange concept, and it was one of very few in the UK. So what had happened was that they had this community centre. They were trying to work out what to do with it. The skate park side of it was kind of more of a all-purpose hall. So basketball, tennis, badminton, all-purpose event hall. And then some BMX riders started kind of going there and saying, is there any chance we could have a ramp and this and the other? And then all of a sudden they started to see that there was a lot of people wanting to do BMX, and BMX was huge in the 80s. And then skateboarding came along, and the skateboarders started skating on it. And then all of a sudden it's like, right, okay, let's see if we can get some investment into this. And a guy called Ken, I can't remember Ken's second name, but Ken was really instrumental. He was one of the youth workers there, and he kind of managed that center. And he got funding, he got building materials, whether he went out to companies and asked for it or however he got it, and they started building ramps. And along with, people from around the country, they started learning and understanding how to build the ramps. They built the ramps, and, as the expression goes, they build it, they will come, right? And literally it did. It was packed. Every Saturday, every Sunday, it was full. And it was all skateboarders with one or two BMXs.
So did competition just naturally happen? Because there were so many people, it was community, and let's start having a competition.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they would run their own little contests as well. And it was great. It was an indoor safe space that provided that sense of community. And people came from all over to skate there. And now when you look back on it, you're like, well, it's not really much more than what you could build in your back garden. There was a little tiny half pipe, there was a mini ramp, and there was the smallest little piece of street section. And that was it. But everybody loved it. Everybody that went there really enjoyed it, was really respectful. But unfortunately, the area that it's in, which is Concord, I think the building is still there, which is a place called Concord in Washington. Not the most affluent of areas. So, this little community centre in the middle of there, and it just got vandalised. It got vandalised all the time. There's always some new graffiti on the walls outside, and like I say, they pretty much burnt the place down 3 times. So it was good, but it was a great place, and it also had other little things that Ken had a transit van that was provided by the local authority, and a transit minibus, and he would take people to different places up to Livingston in Scotland, and later on they started doing Aviemore trips for snowboarding. So yeah, really inclusive, really great place.
Everyone needs a Ken.
Everybody needs a Ken. Absolutely, everybody needs a Ken. And I'm sure people like the guys from up there, like Harry and Jimmy Boyce and all these guys, they would love for another Ken to come along and take people under their wing and move them forward, because he give us all a good start.
So Gravity Corner, this is some leap. I need to come back to your younger days and then going into that, because I know that there's 3 decades of passion here, which goes into every part of skate.
Yep.
You created brands, you've got unbelievable network around the world, but you're passionate about it, which means you're now involved in judging, but you have a passion for design. And that's where I really want to get into detail on design, amazing spaces, what's happened and what's to come. But Gravity Corner, have you got elements of that place in your...
So I mean, with Gravity Corner, you know, it's really easy to create a retail store online, right? Create a Shopify account, sell online, sell on Amazon. It's really easy. But there is no, and I'm quite passionate about skateboard stores being a physical store. So when I was growing up in Sunderland, there was a place called Skate Attack, which was ice hockey mainly. There was a big ice hockey scene up there. So it was an ice hockey shop mainly, but they started getting skateboards in. They started getting skateboard product in. So the really early days of like Pacer, GNS, and Deathbox, they would stock in there. And, you know, Saturday morning, have to go to town with my mom and my grandmother. Let's go to Skate Attack. Let's go to Skate Attack. And I wanted to go there and see what new boards were on the wall. And I always wanted a Deathbox Sean Goff board and everything else. And just seeing that sense of community. And then, you know, in later days, kind of stores like Mischief in Stockton, which was run by a guy called Bingo. You know, it was the hub of the community. So the skate store was the hub of that skate community. And you could go there, you could chill out, sit on the chair, sit on the sofa, watch the skate videos that were on in the store. And it was always something that was nice to enjoy. It was always good to enjoy. So the first incarnation of Gravity was actually a shop in Sunderland.
And that's what now the buzzword would be. That's experiential retail. So there was experiential retail in the 80s and 90s in the world that you were in.
Yeah. And then as I grew up and got a little bit older, and I was in my early 20s, my mum and I were just bored one day, and we said, "Oh, why don't we look at opening the skateboard store?" And we opened a shop called Gravity Projects in Sunderland, and it was great. We had it as the hub of the community, and again, it had that old school feel where, you know, the TV's on the wall, people come in, they can sit and chill on the sofas, and my eldest daughter used to spend a lot of her, 2-3-year-olds in there, tormenting the customers and tormenting the regular guys that used to come in there. And we did class it as a hub for the skateboard community. It helped that I built a skate park across the road, so, you know, that was there. But I always seen it as that. And then when I moved to Dubai years later, and there's no skateboard scene out here when I first moved here. And then...
When was that?
2012, end of 2012. And
was skateboarding in the Olympics then? I can't remember.
No. Skateboarding's only officially been in one Olympics, but it was previewed in the prior Olympics. So the Shanghai Olympics was previewed, or China Olympics, it was previewed. And then in the last Olympics in France, it was actually a full event. Although the first preview one was medaled as well. So moved here, no real skate scene as such. And then as over the years have developed, you know, we've seen a skate scene kind of evolve. And it was like, maybe it's time to bring like an old school shop.
Wait a second. So it evolved just naturally, or did things start getting built?
Things started getting built. So yeah, when I first came here, there was the skate park at Ranches 1, which is still here. Metal and Skate Light. There was Old Business Bay, so Bay Avenue shops at Business Bay. There was a small little skate park there. That's now gone because they built the big skate park at Business Bay at Opus Tower. And then there was a little wooden skate park, which is now the site of the Spring Souk. So where they built the Spring Souk, there used to be a little skate park. There's little shops and the mosque, and then there used to be a little skate park there. Pretty much a death trap because it just had holes everywhere. And that was it. And then the first indoor skate park went into Al Quoz in 2014, which was Skate Factory. And that didn't last very long because there wasn't a skate scene. There wasn't really anything. And it wasn't until probably Kite Beach was built that more people started to take an interest in skateboarding. And then from there, it just exponentially grew. I mean, we've got a lot of skate parks now, a lot of concrete here now. Probably more concrete per head than anywhere else in the world because, you know, there's a concrete park here. And then if you drive to that park, you've got to pass another park. And I mean, Arjan's just had a new park. They're getting another park. You guys are building Jebel Ali. So that's Arjan, 2 skate parks, Jebel Ali Village, or the former Jebel Ali Village, which is where you're putting the park in now. There's 3 parks straight away, and that's within a 10-kilometer radius.
And the demand's getting bigger and bigger. And it's why I've latched so much onto this community stuff, because it's where it fits in the bracket. It's certainly in the conversations and the dialogues that I hear or I'm a part of. It's not part of the sport mix. It's part of the community mix.
Yes, part of the
which is interesting.
Mix, yeah.
So when you talk about that, I get it, because I wasn't part of that when I was a kid. But there's always an envy of wanting to be.
No, but also when we were kids, there was no iPads, right? There was no iPads. There was no iPhones. I mean, I had a Commodore 464. I had an Amstrad 464, a Commodore, whatever they were. And it was terrible, right? It was a green screen, really horrible, chunky graphics. And I didn't want to be in the house, you know. I had BMXs. Before I found skateboarding properly, I had BMXs. And I've always been a tinkerer, so I'd always be building a BMX rather than riding it. I'd be out there building it, and then I'd ride it and enjoy it, and then I'd end up swapping it for something else, you know. And so BMX and skateboard have always kind of constantly been there. And being outside, you know, when I was a kid in the UK, you'd go out when the sun came up and you'd come back when the sun went down. And your mum didn't think about it, you know. And this is from me being 6, 7 years old. And now I think about it, and I've got a 6-year-old here. I got a 17-year-old as well. And I'm thinking, there's no way on this earth in the UK I would let them out from dusk till dawn.
No, it's something that I'm enjoying with the kids. We went to West Yass, and it was A, it was late, B, they can just go off and do their thing. It's amazing. But they're also inspired by what they're seeing. Now, it's interesting. There's something in the DNA of community if it's a little bit crap. Yeah. And it's a bit that, and you have to make it. There's an element of that. But actually, the complete opposite is probably just as powerful too. You mentioned Kite Beach. I mean, just the entire structures that fill that. I mean, that happens to be a Jabal site in which you've got these most incredible shade structures that have got to not appear within the bowl itself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge amount of architectural design.
Yep.
And budget, but then you created this amazing thing that actually people that have got nothing to do with skate like to look at.
Yeah, you look at it. It's unreal. You know, the architectural structure of it. If you stand at the beach side or the shop side of Kite Beach and you look towards the skate park, it looks fantastic, right? It looks, because it's got all these columns coming out which don't interfere with the skateboard area. All the columns come out to support the big sails that are above it. And the really good thing with all the sails is they don't create a shadow in the wrong place. No matter what time of day you're there, it doesn't create a shadow in the wrong place. So the worst thing you could possibly think of is that the deep bowl there is 13 feet. You know, you can imagine you're riding that 13-foot concrete bowl with granite coping, which is a dream for anywhere in the world, but a 13-foot deep concrete bowl with granite coping, and you're riding that thing, and then all of a sudden you got a shadow from the canopy above. That would be horrendous, you know. And just as bad would be a ray of light coming through a gap in the canopy. So somebody definitely thought about that as they were plotting that out.
Are you seeing here? Is there a broader spectrum of people using them? Because what I'm seeing is really broad, but then I'm used to that UK mindset of it's going to be if it's not in the community centre, it's in a square in a park somewhere, which typically is out of sight, out of mind. Busy, but it's a square. It's not particularly nice. Though the graffiti adds its edge, whereas we'll come on to that a bit later. But here, you've got a whole range of sizes, but it really is a broad age, and also boys and girls. Is that so? Where are we with the gender split on skate? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's great now to see some girls coming into skateboarding and be very successful. You know, years gone by, I mean, there's always been female skaters kicking around, but I think it's really come to the forefront in the last 10 years, you know, and you have some really talented girls here. Some of the girls that skate Al Jada, you know, they're really talented. You got Emma Victoria in Abu Dhabi, who's doing absolutely fantastic, you know, and she's doing fantastic because one, her parents are very supportive of her skateboarding and what she's doing. But two, she's got facilities all around her, right? All right, they're not the best facilities for her style of skating. She wants to skate the bigger stuff. But she's getting that opportunity, and she's just been to the US. She's part of the French team now. She's just been to the US. She's done really well there. Second place, fantastic, you know, and she's still really young, really, really young. So as she starts to age and as she starts to grow in physical presence, she's going to start getting power, and she's just going to start getting higher and higher and higher, and she's going to be really good. So she's got a bright future.
So we've got, we'll talk about the future a bit later, but so we've got, it seems to me that we've got an unbelievable environment to skate in terms of you've got facilities that are being built of varying types.
Yeah.
There's a passion at you for more. And because it's right time, right place, there's a need to build communities. You've spoken about the strength of it. Now I get it even more.
Yeah.
So that's going to grow and grow. Does the competition level then start appearing?
Absolutely.
So there's competitions here, but I know, for example, you were in Sharjah not so long ago. Tell me about that from the UAE point of view. Then we can think wider afield.
Yeah, so I mean, for the contests that have been held here in terms of, you know, world class events, I mean, there was the World Championships in Sharjah, which was an Olympic qualifying event. There was the World Championships in the Marina in Dubai, which again was a World Championship, Olympic qualifier event. And actually, my good friend Andy Mack got through to the Olympics because of the event in the Marina, which was fantastic. And yeah, I mean, that level of skateboarding was brought in. But when I look at the local talent, I see a lot of very talented kids here that, you know, with the right push or the right work ethic, they can be very, very good. And that's where, you know, there's a small group of kids here that are really pushing each other to be better. And that's really good. That's the natural evolution of it, because they're trying to learn new stuff so that when there is little local contests, you know, they can all come to the local contest with something new. And
so, is that something that's just emerging? I don't. There's lots and lots of competition. It sounds like we need. That's one I was going to say. How do we nurture that? So build it and they will come, as you were mentioning to me about your businesses. And build it and they will come, engage and they will stay.
Yep.
And then with the generation now, there's got to be content.
Yeah, there's got to be content. I mean, that's unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword with the content kind of thing, because, you know, when I was a kid, not just when I was a kid, right up until, you know, in my 30s kind of thing, the latest skate video dropping on VHS or DVD was like mind-blowing, right? So I remember at the Oval when Powell Peralta dropped Ban This, right? And the Ban This video came out, and there was a VHS sent to the Oval from the UK distributor, and they had a TV with a VHS player. And we watched that thing over and over and over and over again. The same as the Plan B videos when all of them came out, you know, and Jeremy Ray doing certain tricks in the Plan B videos. And I guess later on the Julian Wheels videos, Chris Markovich doing various tricks and just showing you that what was possible. And then you would get people like, there's a guy from Sunderland called Keith Beef. And he would literally watch the video, rewind it back, watch it again, rewind it back, watch it again, rewind it back, and then go out at the skate park and learn that trick. And he would just, all day, just hammer himself until he learned that trick. And then he'd go back to the video, right, next trick. And he'd watch it and watch it and watch it and watch it. And he'd analyze it. And then he'd go, right. And off he'd go. And he'd start learning it like that. And the US always seemed to be on that completely different level to the UK. And it was, I guess, because they were products of their environment, right? They have the better weather in California. They did have skate parks in California. And when street skating kind of took off, you know, street skating took the mantle from vert and from pool skating, then it all of a sudden made it more accessible, because now, well, we don't need a skate park. We can go to the street and we can do this and we can do that and we can do that in the street. And that kind of made it a little bit antisocial in terms of the establishment looking in on it, looking from outside in. But so what? You know, skateboarding was punk rock back then, right? Now it's lost a little bit of that edge, because now it's not as punk rock again. It's a little bit more acceptable, and it's now becoming pillars of community, right? So
especially here, because communities are being built, cities are being built, urban planning sort of has a perfect canvas of doing things from scratch. So there are designated spaces, but then they're all pretty nice, aren't they?
They're all exceptionally nice.
There are areas whereby you don't want to go to. So maybe that gap is going to breed a different type of skater. But it sounds like, in terms of support, there's three things. There's the continuation of what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is, and what I'm fascinated with Jabal now, how we're advancing and leading on the build of skating. We want to do more and more, and we also with you. But it's the people using it. So it's clear that I think we have responsibilities of actually taking it to another level. The competition part seems to be the next focus. Yeah, we support those people.
Exactly. So, I mean, kind of one of the ideas we've been bouncing around for a while, Andy, my partner in the store, we've been bouncing the idea around for a while of, why don't we create a skate contest and we take it around the different Emirates, right? So, you know, one weekend it could be in Ain. The next weekend it could be in Al Quwain, you know, and we hold these little regional or little Emirate-wise contests.
Wait a second. Why have you not done this?
Well, various reasons. There's a little bit of getting certain government bodies on board. There's a little bit of getting all of the individual skate parks on board, because that's another issue, right? Because like Al Jada in Sharjah is a RADA. So now we have to go and speak to a RADA, and we have to get RADA's permission to do that and to do this and to do the other. And then Damac, we have to go and speak to the guys at Damac and get permission to do it there. And then there's all these little add-on things that kind of create a barrier. But we will get around it.
It's time and labor, isn't it? So it's administration. Yeah. Okay,
exactly. And then once we finally get around it, we were kind of hoping to tag it on to the end of something else. We wanted to create we would love to bring a vert contest here, because there's never been a vert contest here.
Do you want to describe what that is?
So a vert ramp is a half pipe. It's not a bowl. It's not concrete. It's a vert ramp. So it's a half pipe with a vertical element at the end of it. And we would like to bring a vert contest here. So like the Vert Alert or something like that. Get these younger kids inspired by skating the bigger stuff. And then when they go to Kite Beach or they go to Al Jada, they look at these huge bowls and they'll be so like, wow, you know, because there's not many people here can skate the bigger stuff easily.
In general.
Yeah.
But they must I can imagine the explosion of that. And we've had this conversation, and I'm super, super passionate about there being a support of this, but from a Jabal point of view, because there's dozens and dozens and dozens of amazing spaces and more to be built. I think I can hear a Jabal series coming on when it comes to skate. I think that would be awesome.
We welcome it.
But that would lead me to, it's about the good in itself of making that community have even more of a focus, enhance talent, because I think this is the world's best skate park in terms of this region. And then the last thing is that it's the minds of those that skate, which is why we talk, of them building what's next. So the big stuff, Saudi in particular, the demand there is huge. Demand here is big.
Yeah.
Where does it start? Can you see where it's starting to go to, maybe?
It's definitely starting to go more towards a contest style park. But the problem you've got is that, let's for argument's sake, we'll use Al Jadda as the example, because Al Jadda is a World Skate certified, Olympic standard park, right? So the street section is competition standard, and the bowl is competition standard. Now, both of these places are very intimidating. And if you're only starting to just learn to skate, this is not the place for you, right? And that's why Al Jadda has the other skate park at the back of it, which is a little bit less intimidating. Now, it will end up all going this way. It will end up, the natural progression of people will go from being beginners to intermediates to kind of a pro level, right? And I use the term pro very loosely, because pro used to be that you had your name on a skateboard and you got paid for skateboarding. And that isn't really the case these days. There's kids out there that are way above the level of pro skateboarders. And the industry's been saturated a little bit with so many pro skateboarders and so many different skateboard companies, And that's coming from a skateboard company owner. There's too many skateboard companies.
But also pro, semi-pro.
It's a label. It's irrelevant, right? It's not really, to me, it's not really about any of that. It used to be that it segregated you from different contests, right? So you would have amateur sponsored pro. And now you see kids that are in the amateur contest that would wipe the floor with the pro level guys, So you've kind of got to look at it retrospectively and just go, look, just skate together. All right, beginners need to go out the way, but...
So you mentioned about competition skate parks. What's big and what's next? I remember in our conversations about in Sharjah, and then I think with Marina, there was an element of, there has to be an element of watching, and there being an ability of creating a stand. Maybe it's even now set in the future, an ability of not just having a stand. Any sports festival now is a festival, so it's got to have an ability of food.
That's the huge problem with the parks that are here right now, right? I mean, all right, Al Jadda's got the food side of it covered with all the food trucks outside. Great. But there's no spectator area. And there's no real anywhere to build a spectator area for an event.
So this is where we got to. Yeah. Is that what we're seeing is incredible visions and spaces that are being created for communities and parts that come into the communities and flow through.
Yeah.
There is also the vision for wanting to generate spaces that will attract more sustainable 24/7 entertainment. We had Brian from Icon on that was talking a lot about that. Not just about a certain period at night time when certain parts of society will come out. It's all day, every day, and more than once a year, once a lifetime. So that's where public spaces, public realm, whether it's free to use or temporary pop-ups and purchase, it's giving people reasons to come, be together, have fun, stay for longer. Stay for longer means being entertained, but it means eating, it means drinking. And this is the nub of what we're saying. So in community, I'd imagine that you hung around, but when you were 11, because there was a sense of belonging, it was yours, there was probably food and drink. I think here they're getting these incredible spaces built. The sense of belonging it's the mini events that happen.
Exactly. That's what we're talking about. It is. It's the things that happen, around that space. And like we were saying, for terms of viewing, Kite Beach has that fantastic bowl. That bowl's great, yeah. But you couldn't hold a contest there, and you couldn't hold a contest there because you couldn't get enough spectator gallery in there. All right, across the road there's restaurants, but I made the point to some of the team behind X to Y a few years ago that it's expensive. It's expensive to get to that end of town. It's expensive to eat down there. It's expensive if you want a cup of coffee. And then you've got to pay an entry fee, right? And all right, it's one of the rare places that you have to pay an entry fee. But in terms of holding an event there, you couldn't hold a very big event there. You could hold a small regional event there, but you couldn't hold a big event there. When they did the World Championships at the marina, again, the constraints with the space and the constraints that were put on it by external forces couldn't allow enough of a viewing gallery to be put there. So there was bleachers and there was seats and it was great, but they weren't allowed to sell tickets. So it ended up being a sort of private event, which is not what skateboarding should be. It should be open. It should be inclusive. And you have all of the world's best skateboarders there. You're doing the whole community a disservice by not allowing people to go and watch them, you know?
Do you see more and more international competitions, or maybe even Olympic qualifiers?
I would like to see more international contests here.
What would need to happen for that?
People being realistic with their budgets, because some of the international contests are very expensive to put on and bring over. But Dubai, UAE, Abu Dhabi, you know, they're awesome places. They're spectacular places to bring an event to, you know.
How long isn't an event a multi-day event?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like Vert Alert and things like that, they're 2-3 day events, right? And
so, I mean, that's like a mini festival.
Yeah, and then I mean, Jackalope Fest is another one that they add music into it as well, and there's also freestyle motocross, and so you could bring something that would be able to do it, and we have the space. You know, even if a skate park's got to be created for that event, there is space to create a skate park, and there's space to create, you know, a freestyle motocross event, a freestyle motocross track, or jet ski on the beach, or what. There's space to do it all, and then put a music festival around it. I mean, the really good thing is we had the Untold Festival was here, the Romanian music.
Yep.
It's the Romanian Music Festival. The Untold Festival originated in Romania, and then they brought it to Dubai last year, and then it's been here again this year, just over the weekend, just gone. And Gravity Corner and AESSB, All Event Services, and AESB had a mini ramp there. And we've seen a fair few people coming to the event. We provided helmets, pads, skateboards for them to try, because obviously they can't bring a skateboard into the music festival. But it's a music festival. People coming in, they're like, oh, there's a ramp here, we can try it. And yeah, of course you can try it. Come on, let's go. And we're trying to get more and more people into skateboarding, into, as much as I hate to say it, into scootering as well, you know, because unfortunately scootering is here to stay. We all thought it was a fad. We all thought it was going to disappear. We all thought it was going to be like inline rollerblades and kind of burn out, but it hasn't.
There's probably more scooters.
There is, without a doubt.
Was skateboards.
Without a doubt. But the natural progression, and I've seen it in both my sons, the natural progression is they start on a scooter, and then they realize, hang on, there's a skateboard there, and they start getting into skateboarding, and then they realize, oh, skateboarding is actually really loads of fun. Because if you look at the amount of kids that are out there on scooters versus the amount of kids that are actually really good on scooters, it's very disproportionate, right? But there is kids that they can roll around, they can maybe whip it around and land back on it.
Yeah.
But then that percentage of riders that are absolutely like crazy doing handrails and flips into handrails and all sorts like that, that is very, very small. Globally, that is very small. And then with skateboards, you know, there's a lot of beginners, and there's a lot of kids that are kind of intermediate, can do the basics, and then they'll start to progress. skateboarding is the most frustrating thing when you first start off. I mean, I've never been naturally talented. I've had to work for everything that I've ever done on a skateboard. But it will make or break you, right? You'll either love it or you'll hate it. There's not very much in between. I don't know anybody that rides a skateboard that goes, yeah, it's all right. It's either, God, that was amazing, or I don't ever want to do that again,
Have you, there's always, every year there's always amazing ideas pitched at Riyadh seasons. And there must have been some.
There's
more
been
extreme
skateboard
sports have been, yeah.
There's been skateboard.
Have they been
in
extraordinary or?
To be honest, I've never been to one. But I know there's a few guys from the UK have been to a few, and they've done coaching lessons and things like that, and yeah, they've been all right. And I mean, the original skate park at the Boulevard in Riyadh is now gone. Whether it's gone because they want to build something better, or whether it's gone because it just wasn't being used, I don't know.
Well, it's going to be fascinating because I think I mentioned the podcast with Gosling. There's about 4,500 square meter space in which a lot of that is skate in the Red Sea, and that is a huge outdoor space, which is quite a precedent from the residents it will be sitting amongst, but in terms of what their statements for entertainment. But the demands and the conversations around whether it's Sports Boulevard or many of the others, we can all name them, but from Bosch to HC and others, there is a real thirst and appetite for generating these community spaces, whether they are active, wellness, or just fun-based.
Yeah.
And the millions of square meters that are going to be built over there, there's a heck of a lot of innovation and thought. So I think if something big for the future is going to be done, it's now. And I think it's going to be a case of probably learn what's been great here, do even better here.
But learn what's been done wrong here as well.
That's quite true. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's learning from the mistakes, and it's also learning from what is very lacking in the UAE. And what is massively lacking in the UAE is a world-class, world-standard indoor skate park.
Interesting.
Because
what is a minimum size for a world-class indoor skate park?
it's going to be around about, now see, I learned in centimeters and meters, but I always put it into feet. You're looking at around about 15 to 20,000 square feet.
Right. Let's just keep it simple. It's a bit more than this, but just divide by 10.
Yeah. There you go. Easy.
Why indoors? Why is that?
So we have heat, you know, we have areas here that get up to 50 degrees ambient.
So it's more a case of, I get that. It's more a case of, because you want it all year round, not just for...
Yeah, so it needs to be all year round, right? You know, if you've ever tried running from your house to your car in the middle of summer here, you'll understand how hot it gets trying to skateboard around a skate park.
Yeah.
You know, it gets insane. And dehydration's a real issue. And you can only drink so much water. You can't rehydrate quick enough. So water would be perfect for all year round, but also too, it could have different elements in it. So you could have a big, because we don't want to look at putting metal frames and wood outside. And all right, skate light's very good. Skate light's very resilient to the heat, but again, it's gonna be affected. So the ongoing cost of maintenance, especially if you're building a vert ramp and it's a skate light surface, which is what you would want. So the ongoing operational costs are going to be super, super high. Put it inside, you know, you build it once and it's very minimal to keep it up in terms of that type of ramp. And then there's nothing stopping you doing concrete inside, right? So you can still do the rest of your park in concrete. And then you tag on F&B. You know, you tag on your coffee shops, you tag on food.
Is there one in mind around the world that you've been to? Because you've traveled the world to skateboarding. And what's best?
See, I don't think there's any such thing as the best, right? There is There's all sorts of places. I mean, there was the CA training facility in California, which is now closed, but there's a new one opened up, and I can't remember the name of it, but there's a new one opened up. There's Greystone Academy in the UK. There's obviously the Camp Woodwards. They're all fantastic in their own way, you know, and they're all pretty well set up. And I think there's a little bit of backlash at the moment about these, they're calling them high performance academies, right? Because they are training the next group of Olympians or whatever. And I don't see it as a bad thing. You know, I only see it as bringing more and more people into the sport. And I think that's a good thing. And I think the more we invest in it, the more people we bring into it, the more people that are having their kids active and not on iPads all day long. You know, I mean, it's great that iPads are here, and it's great that TV is so accessible now and everything else. Fantastic. But there's a time and a place for it, right? You know, and I always get in trouble with my wife because we skateboard on a Saturday and we skateboard on a Sunday, right? My son is now coaching, and we go and we have our Saturday morning session with my group of friends, but both my sons come with me. We end up getting back home by like 1 p.m. And then my wife's like, oh, well, we've lost the weekend because now it's 1 p.m. and we can't do anything. And I'm like, well,
That's brunch gone.
But yeah, but then also on the flip side of things is well, if I didn't spend time with my kids, I would be criticized. You know, she'd be like, well, you don't spend time with the kids, you don't spend time with the family. And
it's a dangerous ground, Mike.
it is very dangerous ground, but I
at least you didn't say current wife this time.
yeah, I didn't say current wife. Yeah. We maybe should go into that a little bit to cover my behind. And yeah, I think it's great that the kids get off the couch and, you know, we get to do something. And yeah, sometimes I break myself off some and I need to lay on the sofa for the rest of the day. But hey, that's what happens, right? You know, I'm getting old. I don't bounce as well as I used to. But then on a Sunday, my son coaches, and he coaches the little kids, and it's great. It's fantastic to see.
Is there tech starting to infiltrate? So I know that there's more wearable tech, there's more interactive tech and involved in sports, certainly in gyms.
Yeah.
Not so much in competitive sports that I can tell, but we've got meta glasses, others. But I'm just thinking where there is, you know, sports are repetitive, especially if they're ball game sports or sports that involve multiple people. But in skate, you're creating a course and you're doing you're doing tricks. I'm sure GoPro content's been epic for it, but I can imagine there's a whole place for people that aren't even there, that are connecting with friends that are there. That could be a whole new engagement, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there is. I mean, GoPro when GoPros came out, they kind of changed the whole realm of skateboard filming. I mean, way back when we used to, and it goes back to the idea of creating content. We always had, when we had the first shop, we always had a video camera with us. So, but it was a, you know, Canon XM2. So it's like kind of this big with a depth lens on the end of it, Century Optics depth lens on the end of it to give you the fisheye effect so you get really up close. And they were big, they were heavy, you know, and it wasn't the thing you wanted to pull out in, you know, the ghettos of Newcastle because you're going to get robbed, you know what I mean? And then as you start looking down the line and DSLRs came into effect, you know, like these cameras here, mirrorless here now, but DSLRs came into effect and that kind of reduced that size a little bit, but they weren't quite there. And then GoPros came along and it was like, holy shit, this little tiny thing here is going to, and nobody kind of believed in it and understood in it. And I think it was more of the guy who invented it was Surfer, I believe. And he wanted it for that. And then all of a sudden it blew up, right? Yeah. And they had their own proprietary software and color management. So no matter what you shot with a GoPro, it looked great. It looked fantastic out of the camera. And you didn't have to edit it. You know, whereas in a shot to an SD card, and it was a nice SD card, digital, straight away. XM2, VX2000. They're mini DV tapes.
I'm judging by the knowledge that you've got of all of this sort of stuff. Yeah, the tech's been really important for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I got my first Canon XM, and it was great. And we had to transfer a FireWire to the computer, and I used a PC for editing. And it was always hell. We always had to have PCs built specifically for editing, and using Pinnacle software and Pinnacle graphics cards to capture the footage. But you had to play it. You had to play it in the camera and record it to the computer. So you couldn't just go, oh, I want that clip there, and chuck it into the computer. You had to capture the whole tape, or you had to capture in segments. And that's, if you look at any old skateboard footage, you'll see people doing this with a hand to the lens. And that was so that you could fast forward through the video. And when you see the hand do this, you knew a trick had been landed. So you would go back, and then you would capture just that section to where this happens, and then move forward, because the tape's rolling. The tape's always rolling. Or you're going to stop the tape, but if you just stop the tape randomly because somebody fell off, well, that's just a tape stop. But if you're filming and somebody lands a trick and the hand goes in front of the camera, you see that when you're capturing on the computer. So that's what you would do. You capture it in at that point.
So that's the tech side. But I think, as you brought this up before, and it's reminded me of the core essence of skateboarding is the board itself. And I didn't know any of this trivia, and I love it.
Yeah.
So there's a problem with the supply of skateboards because of its original source, and I never knew.
Well, I guess there's not a problem with supply of skateboards because of the original source. There's a supply cost implication because of the tariffs in the US now. So, a lot of skateboard manufacturing is done US, Mexico, China, right? There's a little bit done in Europe, down in Spain or in France, little bits, yeah, but nothing anywhere near as significant as what happens in New Mexico, And the majority of skateboard construction is rock hard Canadian maple. So rock hard Canadian maple comes from Canada, or the majority of it comes from Canada. There is other places in the US that do create it, but comes from Canada majority. So now you've got tariffs of that raw material coming into the US. So US manufacturers are now getting hit with tariffs that are increasing the cost of production. And then if the raw materials are going from Canada directly to Mexico, well, then Mexico's end product is being tariffed going into the US. And then for the UK, we had Brexit, which created a whole heap of problems. And then we've got China. And China 15 years ago, I would have never looked at a skateboard from China. 15 years ago. Not a chance. Not a chance. When we started 40 nearly 9 years ago now. And I vowed from day one, we will never use a board from China for 40. And to my knowledge, we haven't. We've been getting them from the US and from Mexico. Now, China's a little bit different. They have got Canadian maple coming in from Canada, and they have traceability on their raw materials, so you can trace it back to the supplier. If you ask them for it, they will give you it. And their production processes are improving. A lot of the US board manufacturers moved to China and created their own wood shops and everything else. And over the past few years, they have become a force to be reckoned with. And just like any industry, there is going to be a Chinese version of it.
Yep.
And
quality's risen.
And the quality's risen.
Is there a big skate scene happening in China?
There's a huge skate scene in China. And I'll predict it now for you. The Olympics next time in LA will be dominated by the Chinese.
Yeah.
If they're allowed to travel to the US.
Of course.
Geopolitics. Well, let's keep geopolitics,
I guess. Well, let's come to it's on that topic actually with Olympics, but certainly in the UAE and the things exploding into Saudi, we've got LA and then we've got future Olympics happening.
Yep.
It sounds like the basis is here, and the more we push, the more we build bigger and better.
Yep.
The more communities are going to be built around it. And if there's more support for the sports side of it, or at least the competition side of it, and if skate's already being threaded into the community basis in the UAE and in Saudi, but if the competition and the reasons to return beyond just being on your own increases, it sounds like it's the foundation for doing more than most parts of the world.
Yeah, and I mean, if we really want to look at it, and we really want to take an example, since we touched on China, China's access to outdoor skate parks and indoor skate parks and skate academies and schools that teach skateboarding as part of their curriculum
Really
is huge. I'm not saying I agree with a lot of the methods that I see, but I know some people out there that are coaching and this or the other, and they're having a great time, and the facilities that I have access to are world class, and I heard a rumor that the bowl and street section from Paris
found its way over there.
Well, it was leaked a few months prior. The designs were leaked to China, and China built a replica within 3 or 4 weeks. So the Chinese team had time to skate before they went to France. They're all in all of the time, right? It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It could be shooting, it could be archery, it could be skateboarding, it could be surfing, whatever it is. They're gonna be all in, and they have the backing, right? And the government is very active in, they want to play on the world stage at everything. So why would skateboarding not be part of that? And they are dumping millions into it.
So you are competitive.
So yeah,
you are competitive.
Yeah, of course.
Just don't call it a sport.
Just don't call it a sport. No, it is. It is a sport now. I mean, previously it was skateboarding is not a crime. Yeah, and then skateboarding is not a sport. But unfortunately, the reality is, and you have to come to that reality, that it is a sport.
Well, look, Mike, this has been awesome, and we're going to do lots of things together. Most importantly, we want to build bigger and better, because the foundation is that what's been done has been great, and people are embracing it, doing more, communities doing more. Let's go more, and let's have that Jabal series happening. That'd be awesome.
It would be nice. It would be nice. It'd be good to see.
Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.